Welcome to this edition of the Times Techies webinar series. My name is Shilpa Fadnis and I have with me my colleague Sujit John. We are technology and business reporters at TOI and both of us have been with TOI for a long time. The two of us will moderate today's discussion. Our discussion today is in association with LogMeIn and we'll be discussing enabling digital engagement strategies in the new normal. LogMeIn is a Boston-based company that provides cloud-based remote connectivity services for collaboration, IT management, and customer engagement. It has an engineering center in Bangalore. Given that most people are working from home and are wary of physical interactions, the way companies interact with customers and employees has changed considerably. A lot of interactions have moved online. And how do you create these best experiences for both of them? Employees' expectations for support has rapidly evolved and internal support teams are being measured to provide customer-based experiences. Businesses are turning to emerging technologies like AI to engage with their employees effectively. To discuss this, we have two seasoned professionals. We have with us Vikas Malhotra, Head of Enterprise Business in LogMeIn. Welcome, Vikas. Vikas has over 2 decades of experience in helping organizations achieve substantial business outcomes by providing niche technology solutions. Vikas has managed and led partnerships with customers across different verticals and diverse businesses. Vikas has worked at Wipro, Dell, Symantec, Oracle, and NTT Data, and now with LogMeIn in India. And we also have with us Chandrasekhar Vattikutti. He's the Senior Vice President in InMobi. Welcome, Chandrasekhar.
Thank you, Shilpa.
Thank you. Chandra leads vision, strategy, and execution for InMobi Telco Cloud. His business unit helps global telcos create and scale digital businesses and power their digital transformation journeys. Prior to this, Chandra was the Chief Product Officer at InMobi. He has previously worked with Microsoft, Yahoo, and various startups. Those who are viewing this can send in questions through the chat box. Sujit and I will put them to Vikas and Chandrasekhar. Without much ado, I'll hand it over to Vikas for a short presentation, after which we will follow it up with a Q&A. Over to you, Vikas.
Thank you so much, Shilpa, for the warm introduction. I'll just take a minute to get my presentation up and running. All right. Thank you so much once again, and thanks to all the audience who are there who have taken time out for this session. I would really try my best to ensure that this becomes a good use of your time and probably try to understand that how LogMeIn is working with organizations in enabling digital experiences, in enabling better digital experiences. So without further ado, let's jump right in. Let's see what Gartner has to say about this, first of all. So Co-Browse has the potential to bridge the gap between human and AI customer interaction and to enable organizations to differentiate their customer service. So what's really happening is as the role of technology continues to expand in everyday life, it is becoming crucial that customers feel supported in their digital experiences. And co-browsing has become an ingenious tool to accomplish just that. At the same time, by providing step-by-step guidance in real time, virtual agents can serve along with the customers until their query is completely resolved. And that's what I'm going to be going a little detail in today. So with that, I'd like to introduce LogMeIn's story in this area. We call our product Rescue Live Guide. And as the name suggests, this helps a contact center agent or any agent to guide a user, to guide somebody who has been on any of your digital channels, go through the digital channel and help them to understand or help them to decide better and faster. Why? I mean, it really becomes all the more important is because think of it, organizations are spending lots of money in getting consumers to visit their website, to increase the footfall on their website or get more and more customers hooked to mobile devices or on their mobile apps. But the problem there is that sometimes in creating a lot of content, it becomes difficult for the user to navigate through such rich content. And that is where, in the essence of time, it becomes extremely important for somebody to handhold them and then be able to guide them through this journey with an objective to create better and meaningful outcomes. So let's look at the core tenets over here, the 3 pillars basis which Rescue Live Guide is which Rescue Live Guide works on. So first thing is instant deployment. I'm sure when we talk about a co-browse solution, or whenever we are talking about any solution that has to touch any part of our digital channel, first thing we are thinking is deployment. How many integrations will it take? How many people will it take? What's the coding effort it's required? So that's certainly one thing that comes to mind, and that certainly is one thing that enables, or probably enables, certain decisions in that area. The second is flexibility. How it is to be used, where it is to be used, and probably what's the long-term vision of the organization, whether it can accommodate, or what's the roadmap. So certainly a lot of flexibility is to be thought about. And last but not the least is security. I mean, this is one piece which is just not compromisable at all. I mean, while we would have checked the boxes on 1 and 2, but we want to be 100% sure on the security part and not leave anything which does not meet the security aspect from a compliance perspective, or from a risk perspective, or from any sort of a threat perspective. So with that, let's look at these pillars one by one. So unlike any meeting app or any remote support app, this is extremely simple to install. What really happens is that it is just a plug and play. All one needs to do is put in an applet, put in a widget, and it's ready to work. It's just so, if you were to ask me a question that, Vikas, are you saying that there is no coding effort required to start off with? My answer is yes, there is no coding effort that is required at all. The second piece to this is that it's absolutely easy to evaluate, given the fact that there's no coding effort, or there's no integration effort. For someone to create a business case within the organization, it's extremely simple to start off. You could start off with limited subscription and see whether it's adding that delta difference in terms of saving costs or probably increasing revenues for your organization. And that's what will translate into an effective business case. At the same time, it's absolutely a business friendly setup for data masking. So as I mentioned, security is of utmost importance. It is the organization that can decide what fields can be masked and what fields the agents should not see, because we understand that when a customer has to fill in their data, it's extremely important that we are able to mask some of the critical or sensitive information. I don't know, I'm just having some trouble moving this forward. Yeah, I spoke about flexibility. Now, it's not necessary that one has to look at co-browse only from a internet browser perspective. It could be any browser. First of all, not limit yourself to Explorer, or not limit yourself to Chrome or any other browser, but it could be extended to mobile app also. There are so many companies whose bread and butter, or 70% or 80% of their business is coming from their mobile apps. Can an agent virtually co-browse with the user on the mobile app? The answer is yes. So that's one thing. So I spoke about the codeless and code-based deployment integration. We are already up with the Dynamics 365 integration. So if anybody's a Dynamics 365 user, it's a simple integration with that. And then there are granular permissions at the admin center. I mean, we bring in the flexibility of what the business wants and how the business wants this to be deployed. Whether they want the agent to see some part, whether they want the agent not to be able to navigate through certain parts, whether they want the agent to be able to press, able to use some of the buttons, call to action buttons or not, all such things are, the flexibility is given to the admin, and with detailed reporting associated with that. And I spoke about the third part, which is the security. So as I mentioned, data masking, blocking the agents from call to action, automated session recording. You may want to, organizations may want to record that how the journey has been happening and how they can improvise their processes. Where is it that the customers abandon the page? during the co-browse journey, or is it probably they might want to see whether form filling as a tedious job is that's where it's taking too long and they could put much better processes around that. And at the same time connecting to third-party browsers in the cloud. So what we do is once the session is established, the session takes place on a different cloud. So it's not happening at the user's device. It's not happening at my device or on my mobile phone. It's going to be happening in the cloud. So with this, let's look at the use cases. While I've spoken about the 3 pillars and some of the features in brief, it's important to look at the use cases of how the solution can actually be used for what business outcomes. So first is certainly servicing your customers. It could be your existing customers to whom you're trying to upsell something, cross-sell something, or probably you're just trying to support them on the digital footprint, on the digital channel. The second part is the conversion. You have somebody who is already there on your website, who's about to make a decision. I would say I always encourage organizations to think in this way, that somebody has entered a physical store, has gone through it, is not able to make a decision and steps out thinking that he or she will come back. The chances of getting back onto in that shop or on that web page becomes very limited. So if a lot of money has been spent in getting somebody on your web page, why not engage them better and help them transact in real time? So conversion is the second use case. And the third business use case is looking at onboarding. So somebody has already taken up your service. Now they want to start off using it. Now, what normally happens is we try to guide the users over the phone through lengthy conversations. Even now, this could be done, but it could be done in a faster. With co-browse, it could be really fast because both agent and the consumer are viewing the same page, and this is happening in real time. So these are the 3 primary use cases that I wanted to mention over here, which is service, conversion, and onboarding. So I don't want to take much time. I'll be more interested to jump into Q&As, and I'll be very much interested to talk more about it. So these are my details, and do reach out if there's anything. Is there any way that we could help you rethink on the co-browse or the digital strategy? Thank you so much.
Shilpa, you're muted, I think.
Yeah, sorry. Thank you, Vikas. Thank you so much for that presentation. If you can just take us through how different are these tools to, compared to what's available in the market. There are several remote support tools.
Oh, okay. So first of all, the clear line of differentiation is that this is not a remote support tool. A remote support tool is something with which you remote into a user's device to troubleshoot the device. So LogMeIn has been a pioneer with a product called Rescue in helping organizations relook into their IT service desk strategy with this remote support tool. But in this, with Rescue Live Guide, one does not actually remote into the device. One just co-browses the browser, the web page or the mobile app, and just guides through. So one does not take the control.
Okay.
Can you take us through some of the use cases, customer deployment stories, if you can share some of them?
Well, I can, without naming the customers, I could certainly run you through some of the use cases. One is a very large holiday company, travel and tourism company, which was looking at a co-browse solution to help their customers to help their prospects visiting their website decide on travel packages, because what they try to make the experience absolutely seamless by having mountains and beaches and forests and all those categories. But then within that, the complexity gets added when you are looking at 2-star hotels, 3-star hotels. You are looking at whether you want a guide with you or not, or whether you want an airport pickup or not. So all of these, they felt that while the users are coming on their very rich website, the problem was a lot of that was creating a lot of confusion for the customer, because every link had a sublink and which was just kind of filling in with a lot of information. but somehow they felt that the users are not able to create a decision, not able to take a decision. So that's when they started to pilot with us and started asking the customers that the question that if they could help them co-browse. So while doing that co-browsing, they could help them plan their holiday in a much faster way. Am I saying the message is not here that it won't happen without that, but what is of essence here is the time. Whether in the limited time, can we latch on to this customer and create that particular visitor into revenue?
Sure.
Chandrasekhar, let me bring you in here. I mean, in Mobi, I mean, you guys have been masters, gurus in some sense of engaging with customers. I mean, targeting customers in very specific ways. Tell me, in today's environment, how are these technologies working? What kind of demand have you seen?
So Sujit, we have seen, obviously, COVID has meant that people are spending a lot of time at home, right? There is a lot more hours that otherwise would have gone for commute and the likes. So to your question, I think there is a lot more appetite for content consumption, a lot more appetite for specific forms of content, right? I mean, it's evident in the rise of OTT apps, it's evident in the rise of gaming, and so on and so forth. So that at least is maybe our take that there is a lot more appetite for certain forms of content. Given our business is largely about, or at least the core Innovi business is largely about putting the right value proposition in front of the user, because users are spending and consuming a lot more time on online digital services, you can say that our ability to target, our ability to maybe put the right value proposition in front of the users has just increased during this last 12 months. So obviously, if there were X signals earlier, you could think of us having X repeat a lot more time. So that's 1 degree of strength, 1 degree of accuracy. And you also now have a lot more predictability, right? When people are possibly on Wi-Fi connections at home, you have a lot more quality signals coming in. You can use some maybe surrogates to say this is possibly the profile of the user, this handset, this connection speed, and hence they are a particular demographic profile and so on and so on. So long story short, what I would say is that more time spent online and higher quality of signals has just meant that we've been able to do a much better job of running targeting advertisements in the last 12 months than say even prior to that. And this is not only for InMobi, but I would say this is possibly true for pretty much most ad tech players.
Okay, and you have metrics for that. Customers are acknowledging that they're getting far better responses.
So one surrogate metric is obviously the consumer's response to those propositions, right? I mean, I could loosely model it as click-through rates. I could model it as conversions on the eventual landing page. So yes, on those fronts, we are seeing a lot more engagement, a lot more interest. And as a measure of relevance of our advertising capabilities, we are seeing those metrics improve over the last, I would say, 18 months. It's been kind of phenomenal over the last 8 to 9 months.
Okay. Vikas, where is AI playing a role in what you're doing in this co-browsing thing?
Yeah, AI is at the heart of it. We are just to bring it in the co-browse, but LogMeIn's AI story goes one step before. So I spoke about somebody visiting the digital channel. So our story with chatbots has already been there in the market. We are having customers around the world and in India using our AI-powered chatbots. So that's something that is already going well and got amplified during the COVID crisis. The AI story really got amplified during the COVID crisis. One of the things that we are doing is we are getting the AI engine, because that's our core technology, which out of Israel. So that AI engine is what we are looking at getting into our other products, like our meeting tools. Let's say GoToMeeting or other meeting tools of ours is where we are looking at bringing in the AI capabilities so that it could help the users to make effective use of post-meeting analysis. That what was discussed, who spoke for how much time, whether this seems to be a good sign or probably there's some negativity around that, or probably transcripting and all such things. So that's something that we are doing that. But yes, with our chatbots, we are like really there at the customer space, we have helped a lot of organizations already look at, transform and automate not only their B2C scenarios, but even B2E for their internal employees, for automation of IT help desk or for automation of HR help desk, so that the repetitive and mundane queries could be handled by a bot, and then the most relevant ones or most critical ones could be answered by some human intervention.
Okay. Shilpa?
Yeah, Chandrasekhar, cloud is the new normal. If you can share some of your insights as to what your customers are telling you during pandemic, right from adoption to acceleration, from both glance perspective and the InMobi marketing cloud standpoint.
So maybe, Shilpa, what I'll comment is our own journey with the cloud, right? Obviously, being in the business of bringing the best advertising value proposition in front of consumers, at least on the B2B side, ensuring the best return on advertising spend for our advertisers. And on the Glance and Roposo side, just being able to put the right content in front of the users' hands, right, or in their handsets. So I would say without us having committed to the cloud a couple of years back, I don't think we would have been able to ride this transition from a pre-COVID to a post-COVID or a COVID and a post-COVID universe, right? I mean, people were spending 40% more time on their handsets, playing games, consuming short videos. As an extension of that, possibly even seeing a lot more ads and ad experiences, right? So I'll say that maybe because we moved to the cloud, because we moved to a lot of scalable stacks, we were able to kind of ride this transition, right? If we had kind of worked off of our own infrastructure, like say maybe 3 or 4 years back, it would have been somewhat of a challenge, just timing acceleration or timing our infrastructure growth with COVID, specifically when pretty much everyone's supply chain systems, everyone's operational processes were up in the air, right? Because at least in the period from March to May, June. So I would say because we rode the cloud wave 3 or 4 years back, and we were in a position to kind of tap into all of the good things about cloud, right? The ability to auto scale, the ability to provision hardware, compute, storage on demand, and just to ensure that we are putting the best possible experience in front of our customers, be it on our B2B side or on the consumer side. So, what has also helped is we've also moved our dependence on cloud from, say, regular compute storage to now using really the benefits of a lot of, I would say, higher order services, right? Just maybe text summarization, speech synthesis, the ability to generate a lot more content and videos that people can consume, the ability to stitch together ads on the fly, maybe create billions of combinations on the fly basis the user's interest. So I would say a lot of our success would have to be accredited to just our choice of moving to the cloud and just us being able to exploit a lot of those underlying capabilities really effectively.
Okay. Do you also see a lot of
AI? Sorry. No, I just want to follow up on that. On these underlying capabilities, AI, ML, I assume, is a big part of it, is it?
Absolutely, Sujit. So somewhere, given the nature of our business, right, when you have maybe literally a few 100 million users using your product on a daily basis, and on the advertising side, our scales are roughly about 40 to 50 billion options that we close on a daily basis, right? It's all low latency, high throughput systems, right? Both on the enterprise side as well as on the consumer side. Now, those kinds of systems literally have to be closed loop systems, right? You have to be able to process the data, uncover the signals, run your machine learning models, if required, tweak the models in production. And a lot of this automatic decisioning, forecasting, and the models getting smarter over a period of time are pretty much the only reason why you can scale in this business, right? I mean, if your recommendation algorithm of what short video you are seeing in your feed isn't getting more and more accurate basis more and more data about consumption by the user coming in, that's the only way to build, I would say, a product-led business, and a business that scales with more data that you put in. These systems get smarter, and hence your recommendations and your product quality improves. And that pretty much, I would say, a lot of the machine learning infrastructure and models are pretty much, I would say, the heart of our systems, both on the B2B side as well as on the consumer side.
Okay. Shilpa, go on.
Yeah, Chandrasekhar, just wanted to also get your thoughts on how comfortable are customers with a multi-cloud environment? Are they easily moving from a private to a public cloud and vice versa?
So I think maybe I can comment on our journey and then at least what we've anecdotally heard from other partners who we kind of really tapped into to understand their own journeys, right? When we committed to the cloud, we did have our share of transition related, I would say, troubles, right? I mean, in the sense that you have a ready steady state business, you have business commitments that you have to deliver on, right? You want to continue scaling the company 40-50% annual. You want to kind of ensure that you also don't become hostage to your own infrastructure's inability to scale, right? So we had to kind of balance out that transition from private cloud to public cloud at a pace that was good for our business, at a pace that was accretive to our strategy. We didn't want it to be a 3-year, 4-year transition because you tend to kind of lose momentum, right? You have pieces of code sitting on 2 different stacks. Your new features kind of slow down because you now have to write against 2 different systems. So I would say we kind of bit the bullet and accelerated that transition. Some other firms don't have that luxury. We had the luxury of being relatively homogeneous from a systems perspective. So it was almost the equivalent of, say, maybe you turn off one data center in Europe and you kind of move to the public cloud in Europe. You move then to the data center in Singapore and move to the public cloud in Singapore. So we did manage that transition. It did take us a year. I would say kudos to our engineering team for being able to do that. But this transition, we've had a lot more luck and we've done it sooner than most other players. When your business is not entirely digital, for example, if you're an old world company, you're a mix of digital channels and a mix of offline channels, it does become slightly more tricky in terms of the need to kind of balance out infrastructure that should be on private cloud, right? So if you're a credit card company, you have financial risk models. You and you have regulations and compliance, right? Say maybe in the US, if you have Sarbanes-Oxley and associated financial disclosure norms, you have risk models and possibly constraints of ensuring that biases don't creep into your risk models, right? So that you don't maybe exclude people of certain ethnicity or race from your financial products. When you have those kinds of layers and needs to kind of honor multiple, I would say, regulations and compliance, that transition from, I would say, completely private cloud to a hybrid cloud is the best stance. And those kinds of transitions do take a couple of years. At least that's been our journey, where we were slightly more homogeneous. We were completely digital. We had to bite the bullet, and it was largely getting air cover for our tech teams to be able to make this transition. With some of the old world firms, it's been slightly more measured, right? I mean, you can't kind of rock the boat. You still need to dish out your loans. You still need to model the risk. And for them, it's been, I would say, a very tightrope walk between figuring out what should be on private cloud within their premises, which is like models like risk models if you're a credit card or a financial services products, and maybe data processing and stuff that needs scale that can move into public cloud. At least those are the patterns that we have seen. And each firm, each sector has had to navigate this private cloud to public cloud transition or a hybrid cloud transition at a pace that makes sense for them.
Okay, it's an interesting question that addresses both of you. It's from Manu Chandran. It says, we are looking at hyper personalization, be it with co-browse or with targeted advertising. Are these things coming at the cost of data privacy at an individual level? I know you answered this in some extent, but Vikas Chandrasekhar addresses both of you. Vikas, you want to start?
Yep, well, first of all, I'll say that's certainly a valid question, and that should be a concern on top of everybody's mind, that whether we are compromising that. But yes, I would certainly like to assure, because one of the things that we are really paranoid as an organization is about data privacy. We respect the data privacy of the customer, and that is on top of which all our solutions are built in, and we comply with the laws of the land across all the continents. So that's extremely important. We are in line with the data privacy laws, and at the same time, the way we store the data, the way we use the data is absolutely transparent and in black and white. So I can assure you of that. But yes, valid question. This should be a top of the mind question.
Chandrasekhar, how well do you know me?
Sujit, the good part and the bad part with advertising, the good part is we would have no absolute way of knowing Sujit, right? I mean, if I were serving an ad, we always work at proxies. So again, there is maybe two different universes, right? If you are within a walled garden, like say a Facebook or a Google, they, for all practical purposes, might know exactly what you had for breakfast yesterday morning, right? Because you're posting a photo on Facebook saying you liked your idiyappam and chutney and stuff like that. So there is that universe where they possibly know everything because you are voluntarily, as a consumer, disclosing it, right? In our universe, I think we mostly depend on surrogates, right? And surrogates walking that fine line between how much data is relevant to put the best possible value proposition in front of the user, and how much data is possibly us getting, I would say, a bit too fresh with the consumer, right? I mean, like literally maybe taking device ID, mapping it to an email address, mapping it to certain other data field, which now tells me maybe their credit history, right? So those kinds of things are a strict no-no, at least in our firm. We use mostly strong intent signals, strong behavior signals, all of them crisply and clearly consented to by the users. And that's how we serve relevant ads. Now, to the larger, I would say, question that does more and more precise targeting need more consented data? Absolutely, yes. At least we are of the stance that there are typically three things that you try to ensure, right, from a user trust perspective. Users should be aware of what data they're sharing with you. We are kind of upfront, as that's something we call out in our privacy policies. That's something we call out for our apps. We call that on the privacy notices on the app stores. And once you have been upfront with what data you're capturing, the second goalpost is being fairly clear of how you want to use that data, right? Say maybe using some of these surrogates to put the right proposal, right? Say instead of maybe putting an ad for Nykaa, can I use the fact that you possibly are of the male gender and you may not have an appreciation for Nykaa's products, right? Say beauty products and stuff like that. And hence, I will possibly, because you've shown historically interest in maybe four-wheelers, or maybe you liked a Mahindra Thar ad from 2 months back, there's a good chance that you are male, you have an interest in automotive, there's a good chance that you're still in the market for a car, and hence we might show you a Skoda Rapid car, right? That's pretty much as targeted as you can get when you are not kind of sitting on the handset knowing exactly what you had for breakfast. So I would say we try to walk that fine line between ensuring that we have enough data to put in personalized, highly relevant ads. But there are also natural limits that we cannot get too much data because we consciously know the boundaries, right? We will use whatever data you have consented to give us in the right manner to put the best possible proposal. And we consciously have shied away from business when it has involved us getting down to the level of targeting, say, Sujit, right? Sujit, this is the financial profile of his products, and then can you target this other financial product? We've consciously said no to a lot of business that has possibly moved from shades of gray or moved from something that should be acceptable to a large cross section of population to just pure shady stuff, right? I mean, there are dollars that we absolutely avoid picking up to kind of that dilate this threshold between data to make an experience relevant versus data to now literally digitally stalk people, for the lack of a better word.
Okay. Shilpa, interesting.
Yeah. This question is from Sudarshan. In a few months' time, when most businesses may call back their employees, how will remote working and support landscape change? I think this one is for Vikas.
I don't think so that would change. I'll tell you where the change would be. Let's take two scenarios. One, 2020, when COVID had just hit us, there was a spike. And at that point of time, we saw many organizations, and trust me, these are, since we interact with our customers, the so-called many mature organizations really grappling for a strategy in terms of how to enable remote working, because work from home was just a good to have luxury for a larger set of organizations. And if their employees had any issues with their laptops or with their mobile devices, they were expected to come back to office next day and get it fixed by a technician. So I'm not saying that it's going to be a mad rush. Things have certainly stabilized, first of all. Fact of the matter is that things have stabilized. People have put it in their strategy that what are the meeting tools, communication tools, what are the remote support tools that they are going to be putting in place. But given the fact that they are still, and as we discussed earlier, that not everybody is going to be coming to office, right? There's going to be a hybrid environment. And remote support is not only for employees. Today, organizations are taking it to their customers also, trying to support their customers' devices as well, especially the one into IT contracts. So remote support certainly has been one of those technologies which probably is something very insignificant. If a CIO was to wake up, and would he worry about remote support? Probably not. But would he worry about the impact that the absence of a remote support tool has made on a CXO's device? Yes, he would certainly be worried about that. That would certainly be on top of his mind. And so I would say remote support has a future. And given the fact the normalizations around hybrid working, this is going to continue seeing good demand in the market. And especially around with the variants, and at the same time, we are also evolving in our more and more in our offerings, in our what is it that we want to offer just beyond remote support. Can we offer something which is to do with more of compliance? Can we, like, one of the things that we do is that every action an agent takes on somebody's device, there is an audit log created for that. Whether I double clicked it, I single clicked it, whatever I did that, there's a log created for that. And this is, we are not coming from the perspective that what happens in an event. Yes, certainly it's helpful. It's helpful when some unfortunate incident happens, when some data theft happens or something like that. But from a compliance perspective itself, this is a basic ask from an IT compliance or from an external auditor, that do you know what your technicians are doing with these machines? So we are also trying to enhance our offerings and bring in more and more stickiness towards that.
Okay. There's a question here for Chandrasekhar from Abhinav Gupta. I think Vikas can answer. How much do a digital user in 2021 and a user in 2019 differ? How much has changed because of the pandemic?
Maybe I'll comment on at least patterns or observations that we have seen, right? Obviously, besides increased consumption, with all of the free time, right? I mean, people have saved, maybe if you're in Bangalore, you've saved easily 2 hours of commute, right? And I would believe that that's true for most urban cities in India. So all of that time has meant maybe people who have used it judiciously, they've spent it on themselves or their families. And many a times people have spent it on themselves using whatever handsets, televisions, a lot more, right? So the digital consumer of, I would say 2020, second half, spilling into 2021, as now it's almost by habit their entertainment choices, right? Be it OTT shows, be it consuming news online. And this is across the board, right? I mean, my mom has literally moved to reading newspapers online, right? I mean, this is a lady who absolutely wanted her newspaper for the last 30 years when she's sipping her cup of tea. So I would say these more or less irreversible changes in terms of how everyone consumes it. And it's not just the urban folks, right? It's I don't want to kind of draw it saying only gaming, only that, but tier 2 cities, tier 3 cities, forwards on WhatsApp, consumption of short videos, consuming news entirely online. My father-in-law can't get enough of his fix of casual games, right? I mean, besides raising grandchildren and taking care of them, this is the second biggest, most exciting thing in his day. So I would say the consumers of 2021 and I would say latter half of 2020 are chalk and cheese from, say, their own behaviors in 2018, 2019, where you could step out, you would meet people in person. And now the famed marriages in some of the parts from where I come from are happening on Zoom calls, right? I mean, imagine people who would, you would have 1,000 people attend the marriages, 5,000 people attend the marriages now transitioning into maybe 50 attendee marriages with 1,000 people on a Zoom call, right? So I think the consumer has definitely changed. If we can't get a vaccine in people's hands soon enough, then this might just become the way that all of us consume content, live our lives, and at least I don't see us getting back to that 2019 consumer behavior anytime soon, or at least not in the next 2 years.
Because even tier 2, tier 3 towns, they're taking to these technologies very easily, are they? Or what is your sense?
Absolutely. So our technology, I mean, see, from a LogMeIn perspective, the technologies support other digital technologies. So one of the things is that wherever we are seeing demand, the tier 2, tier 3 cities are not left behind at all. While I completely agree that the business kind of business we are into, the large corporates, the large organizations are really in tier 1 cities, but talking about consumption of technology, consumption of digital, and increase in digital footprint from tier 2, tier 3 cities, I mean, in continuation to your previous question, yes, that is certainly seeing a lot of demand. That is certainly seeing a lot of demand, and from all sectors. The best part is it's not being confined to a sector. The other thing that I want to really mention over here, and Chandrasekhar mentioned about the benefits. We briefly mentioned about the cloud part of it. We are seeing a sudden demand for our solutions, and I'll not say our solutions. I don't want to sound like that, but cloud solutions from government and PSU sectors, which were really closed for cloud at one point of time. They were not embracing cloud so openly as much as I see happening now. In fact, with one of the organizations, we were having a discussion, and when we upfront we mentioned to them that, look, for this so-and-so product, our data center, our servers are not in India, and they were like so matured enough. They said that, look, this does not touch our sensitive data at all. We don't need it. And the point I'm making is not about the fact that what touches their sensitive data or not, but the willingness to open and understand cloud. I'm seeing that spike, and that is something that's noteworthy in these times. The way organizations and people are embracing cloud.
Okay. Shilpa?
Yeah, because are they a very different set of metrics that you look at now compared to what the traditional metrics for support, and how the efficiency of all the productivity tools?
Well, all the productivity tools, the efficiency, I mean, when it comes to metrics, there have been traditional metrics like average handling, AHTs and FCRs, first call resolutions, AHTs. These are the metrics that organizations look at, businesses are looking at, whether it is internally or it is serving their consumers externally. What we are trying to do is we are trying to create the solution that could just enhance these metrics and deliver these outcomes in the lesser time. Because as we see, the CFO's tolerance towards ROI is really going down. What earlier was a 1-year ROI or a probably 3 quarters ROI, we are talking, their already first question is, how are we managing so far? And why is it that we need to change? So we are trying to say that, okay, with the metrics that the industry is measuring, we are just creating our analytics around that so that they are able to deliver that and measure that and report that in a much faster way.
Okay. Just employee engagement, digitally, any interesting things that you have done, InMobi has done?
So Sujit, we were fortunate enough to have moved to a bunch of platforms just before the pandemic, right? I mean, like most other companies, we had a bunch of online engagement collaboration platforms within the company, a bit of Teams, a bit of Slack, a bit of everything, right? And we were fortunate enough to kind of move to towards consolidation of these platforms, almost like a few quarters before the pandemic hit all of us, right? And given that we had done that, I think we've been fortunate enough to kind of move towards or transition seamless from the earlier, I would say sometimes online, but mostly offline kind of employee engagement that was there, right, in 2019. And you would, even for managers, they would walk up to their teammates to say, how are they doing? How are they feeling? versus it's not the same fun hopping onto a video conference call and say, how are you doing, right? I mean, we've managed some of those transitions. We've moved to, I would say, proactive listening also, right? I mean, before there would be maybe attempts to have continuous listening exercises in terms of what employees are saying, how they're feeling, running programs for them, but that has moved to the next gear where we use a bunch of tools internally for continuous listening, and we've reached a stage where there are 25,000 comments, right, that are flowing in from employees. A bunch of us literally spend 2 hours every week.
25,000. What period?
This is period for 6 months, 6 to 7 months, when we actively rolled out these listening software and actually started processing the comments, right? So I would say it isn't a complete, and there are two schools of thought, right? It generates obviously a lot more digital data, which you can mine, kind of come out with patterns. So we maybe move from that completely offline, very individual touch-based engagement to, I would say, extreme digital. And at least I strongly believe, and maybe this is my school of thought, that the happy middle ground will be in a few quarters from now, where you have that personal touch, you can relate to people, you see people in flesh and blood, and you also depend on tools like this, which give you instant feedback. You can slice and dice those numbers by n different dimensions, and providing both qualitative and quantitative measures for managers, HR organizations, and companies to just ensure that just because people have started working remote does not mean that you've lost a pulse on how employees and teams feel.
Okay. Shilpa, I have a question here from Gautam Goyal. Let me ask that. Okay, I mean, both of you have answered this in some ways, but still, how accelerated has AI personalization become in the last 1 year because of the pandemic? I think Chandrasekhar kind of said that you have a lot more data now, and therefore you can do things more accurately. But there's something you can say on how accelerated has AI personalization become?
So I would say with more data, obviously the models have gotten a lot better, right? So maybe earlier, if our prediction accuracy was 90%, maybe it's now 94%, right? And obviously it's almost like the Richter scale. Every percentage improvement beyond some point is almost like a 10-fold improvement, right? So I would say it has accelerated a lot more data. We have consciously made a lot of our systems and teams AI first, right? I mean, we do want the data scientists to be running the show for a lot of these products, because that is the product, right? Putting the right content in front of the user at the right time is pretty much the definition of product, right? Whether it's a screen, whether it's a television, is just a container for that content, right? So we've made dramatic progress in the last 4 quarters, 5 quarters, and I would say that's true for a lot of firms, even friends that I kind of interact with. We are hearing anecdotal data points where traditional offline retailers have made in progress in 6 months that they internally expected to take 6 years, 5 to 6 years, right? That's been kind of, I would say, technology evolution that's happened. And a lot of that is because your data systems are now getting smarter, and you've used the pandemic as a way to cut through the organizational resistance and lethargy to literally leapfrog a couple of years into the future. And a lot of that progress across multiple companies, across multiple sectors, has been because your data systems and your predictions systems and even your recommendation systems, which is the heart of almost every digital business, have gotten extremely efficient over this period. Okay. Vikas, you want to add to that?
Yep. From our world, the world from where we operate in, we are certainly seeing a huge spike in AI getting better, coming in the front. Obviously, during the pandemic, when more and more users are becoming digital, getting more and more digital, and interacting with the brands also have to respond in the same manner as much as possible on the digital channel in a more digital way. So what they are saying is that to understand the customer, to receive the customer, it's really not possible to put human bodies onto everything. And that is where AI, whether it's been in the form of chatbots or it's been in the form of RPA solutions or wherever. I mean, one of the things that we have seen is that it's been really rapid, very high. And one thing that Chandrasekhar mentioned very well was the cutting through the organizational hierarchies in terms of the approval process, and because it had to be done, it meant business. A technology which earlier seemed to be a good to have became the must have at one point of time during the COVID spike. And are organizations going to take that, roll that back? No, certainly not. Now it's going to be effort in more of stabilizing and making it more future ready. When I say more future ready, it's like more adapting to the user behavior, which is now becoming more digital than actually physical.
Okay. Chandrasekhar, what was the point you made about every percentage increase tenfold? I didn't fully understand that.
Yeah. So standard prediction accuracy or most data science algorithm accuracy, right? It's easy enough to get to say maybe 85% just with rookie grads, right? Rookie data scientists and very clean data pipes. You can get hygiene level of accuracy, prediction accuracy, maybe recommendation accuracy, right? After that comes the secret sauce, right? Is your data clean? Are your data models and data structures efficient? Are you tagging the right data? Is fresh data flowing well enough into the pipe? And that's where you get from that 85 to maybe 90, 91. Beyond that, it is a very tough problem, right? Pretty much like the Netflix challenge, where Netflix has been offering $1 million to anyone who's been able to improve the recommendation accuracy of their algorithms. Beyond some point, it becomes almost very difficult to kind of move the needle, right? And I would say a lot of organizations' abilities is for people who don't do data science to at least get to that 85%. And for those who have now started working on those algorithms, that 90 to 91 is the difference between users firing up your product, not liking what they're seeing, and users firing up their product and liking what they're seeing and almost making it a by habit.
Okay, interesting. Shilpa?
Yeah, this question is from Shivanand Reddy. If you can share your thoughts on consumer acceptance, on the adoption for all the new technologies that have come to the forefront in the new normal. Is there a chance that people get overwhelmed with all new things to learn?
I would say certainly yes. Depends on with what kind of a technology curve you come from and start interacting with technology, because many times it happens, and we could bucket it probably by your background, especially or probably age-wise. Adapting to technology is just not easy, because for someone, while technology could be only restricted to social media like Facebook or WhatsApp or Instagram, but when we are ordering our groceries, or when we are probably doing our banking, or when we are renewing our insurance policies on the digital channel, especially when we are used to sitting with a person, interacting and getting that kind of an assurance that yes, it will be done, I think that adoption has really not been easy. But the fact of the matter is, as humans always evolve, we keep evolving, there's an adjustment that has really, really happened. And I look at people who were not at all digitally savvy, the tough times have kind of has been really a good teacher for them to embrace digital. So yes, certainly there has been a spike from all age groups, and the adoption, the learning curve has, I would say, that has largely been overcome.
Yeah, okay. Chandrasekhar, you want to add to that?
No, I think Vikas has summarized it very well, right? Depending on the digital maturity and digital comfort, everyone's traveled a distance. I think it's a sign of human resilience that maybe some things that would give all of us comfort, right? When you're sitting across a person who's explaining the insurance policy versus maybe you're talking to a screen that is telling you the difference between one scheme versus the other. I think human beings have also evolved. Maybe some people are still uncomfortable with the fact that they are not talking to a human being, but I would say independent of the digital maturity coming into this pandemic year, I think everyone has traveled a lot of distance, a lot of ground in the last year.
Because your products are they integrated in a chatbot? From the chatbot, if I quickly want to go to your co-browsing solution and all of that, or the video solution, I mean, these are easy things to do.
Yes. So the co-browse itself has a video capability, so that's not an issue. So that means the consumer and the agent can actually see each other also. while speaking and co-browsing, they can see each other. Because as we said, that there are some people who might be still comfortable in interacting with a human being. So while they are interacting with a human being on a digital channel, but seeing that person gives them a little more comfort. So yes, as far as integration goes, yes, the products are integrated.
Okay. Shilpa, questions?
Yeah. Because if you look at co-browsing solutions, how do you think that's really fitting into the larger mobile-first strategy?
Well, yes, it is certainly fitting in. I would say that when it comes to the effectiveness of the usage, it has been right now, the results that we have is certainly from the perspective of websites, it's been working beautifully. Now on the mobile, it is the user's comfort, because certain mobile applications are relatively far easier to navigate than actually a website. So technologically, there is no issue over there. But what we have seen is the adoption is largely on the websites, where we see co-browse actually working in the most effective way for the businesses. I'm not saying technically over here. The ability to co-browse, whether on the mobile app or on the web, is absolutely the same. But what we are seeing is the users are using or organizations are embracing co-browse more on web channels.
Chandrasekhar, you're totally mobile, is it? You don't do any PC at all.
Yeah, that's a universe that we are completely unaware of. In our DNA, we've been pretty much mobile first and mobile only. Across our B2B products or our consumer products, we literally don't have a consumer website, for example, for a glance. All of our ads we serve only on handsets. So yes, we would be like a deer in front of headlights if you spoke to us about traditional desktops and desktop browsers and stuff like that.
Even now, I mean, yeah, more so many people sitting in front of laptops. You see no value in getting into that.
So the way we look at it is that a larger share of the mobile share of time results in a share of wallet that is so large that us picking up skills and habits and I would say institutional expertise on desktop is time better spent on just moving that mobile wallet share and time share much higher for us.
Okay, we're almost out of time. Any final remarks? Vikas, Chandrasekhar, anything you want to say?
No, nothing from my side. Yeah, it's been a good fun panel. Thank you.
Vikas?
Yeah, same here. All I'll just say is that cloud is the future. And I would really encourage the viewers, as many viewers are there, to embrace cloud. It's secure. It gives a lot of flexibility. So continue to embrace that, and just continue to stay safe, stay healthy. That's all from my side.
Okay. My final words to Chandrasekhar: please ask your mom to buy newspapers again.
I think that's one part of her habit, newly acquired habits that I don't think are reversible. I think there's a feel of being able to hold a newspaper in the hand that should start happening pretty soon for all of us collectively. This much screen time is not good for anyone, leave alone society.
Absolutely. Shilpa, you're done, I think.
Thank you, Vikas. Yeah, thank you, Vikas and Chandrasekhar, for that insightful discussion. We enjoyed it, and it was our pleasure to host you on the Times Techies webinar. Thank you so much for your time.
Thanks, Shilpa. Thanks, Sujit. Thanks, Chandrasekhar.
Thank you, Shilpa. Thank you, Sujit. Have a good day.
Bye.